What is going on, my YouTube friends? It is Trevor coming at you with yet another video about MicroStrategy stock, MSTR, with some really fantastic news, let me tell you. So before I get into it, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, if you're interested in stuff like this, like the Bitcoins, the AIs, the cryptos, the robotics, all the, you know, the big idea stocks and assets of the future, you know. So yeah, if you're interested in this stuff, I make videos all the time talking about this stuff, so definitely subscribe, like the video, and let me know in the comments section how many MSTR shares you got. All right, so MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor, right? We know about these guys, and we know about this company. What is the new news on this? Well, they have now been issued a B- credit rating for MicroStrategy, right? So that's part of like the big deal. The other big deal is like JP Morgan just allowed by the end of this year, actually it's not right now, but it's by the end of the year, they're going to allow their institutional investors to now use their Bitcoin as collateral for loans. So wild stuff. Okay, what is the impact of this on MSTR stock, and what is the impact to potentially your portfolio if you own MSTR, right? Not financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor. This is just my my take as some guy that posts on YouTube, right? Yeah, so here's my idea, right? I think that this is going to be monumental for MicroStrategy getting into the S&P 500, right? So there's been multiple quarters where MicroStrategy, as a $100 billion asset, market cap of $100 billion, could and should be in the S&P 500, right? With that sort of market cap, there's very few companies that you wouldn't consider as blue chips and that you wouldn't consider as worthy of S&P 500 inclusion, right? But because MicroStrategy has historically been seen as, you know, a super volatile asset that, you know, is hinged upon cryptocurrency, you know, it just kind of has been overlooked many times, even though they've been profitable like every quarter for, I can't even remember how long, for years now, right? Yeah, so I think the S&P 500 inclusion is a big deal. Every single stock that I've ever seen get included in the S&P 500, I mean, as soon as that gets announced, you see a gigantic run up in the stock price, usually 10% plus, right? We'll see what happens with this one, when and if it gets, you know, included in the S&P 500, as well as how much the stock price goes up or potentially down for whatever reason, when and if it gets included, right? But my contention, my claim, is that I think with their new credit rating, that I think they will be included in the S&P 500 very quickly, potentially by the end of the year. So yeah, and that's just like a huge deal, you know. So let's move on to the JP Morgan thing. The JP Morgan thing is, like, in my opinion, probably a lot bigger of a deal than the B- credit rating for the stock, right? Because Jamie Dimon has historically said that Bitcoin is basically worth nothing, right? But the thing is that essentially these big banks, they are heavily incentivized, if not forced, to include cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin, Ethereum, maybe even you can throw Solana in there, as assets that, you know, the wealthy people like to own. Whether it's hedges against inflation, hedges against stocks, hedges against real estate, what diversification purposes, whatever. People like crypto, right? The crypto industry is worth billions and billions. Actually, what am I saying? The crypto industry is worth trillions already, because Bitcoin itself is over 2 trillion, right? So the cryptocurrency industry is already freaking massive, guys. It's already massive, and it's just going to keep getting bigger. And it depends on who you ask as to what size it's going to get. If you ask guys like Grant Cardone, they say $200 trillion. They say it's going to just, they say, man, that guy almost ran into me. They say it's worth, you know, like, it basically can take from the bond market, right? Yeah, because bonds, you don't give very much for, you know, CAG, or compounded annual growth rate, or interest rate, however you want to say it, right? But basically what I'm getting at is Jamie Dimon and JP Morgan are essentially forced to make this move. Even though Jamie Dimon has historically said he doesn't like Bitcoin, he doesn't like cryptocurrencies, he doesn't like it. He's not a fan. Well, guess what, Jamie Dimon? The people, what is going on? The people, even in the institutions, like it. You know what I'm saying? So if you get a bunch of pressure from all sorts of people that are essentially your clientele, then guess what? You're forced to make moves like this, right? We saw what Morgan Stanley did earlier this year, right? And we see what BlackRock's been doing. BlackRock has a whole Bitcoin ETF, right? We see what companies all over the world are doing, the BitMines, the MicroStrategies, the MetaPlanets. We see what your average investor's doing, right? So just the fact that JP Morgan is now allowing institutions to hold on to crypto and then take loans against their crypto. I mean, how insanely bullish is that for crypto itself? And then when you think about that, it's like, well, what's tied to crypto? You've got the MicroStrategies of the world. You've got the MetaPlanets, the BitMines. You've got all these companies, governments. I mean, it's just like this massive, massive idea, right? That's just like proliferating through the world. And it's taken, a long time. But, Bitcoin didn't really come out until like 08, 09, and here we are in 2025. And you've got JP Morgan literally allowing its institutional investors to take collateral against their cryptocurrency holdings. It's wild. So essentially I think we're going to see maybe a little bubble, if you think about it. It's like people essentially are going to be able to take out margin debt, against their Bitcoin. And it's institutions, right? It's not necessarily your Joe Schmo retail investor that's going to be able to do this. So that maybe could calm the bubble down a little bit. But still, it's like all these institutions are now going to be able to margin their crypto, right? And whether they use that margin to buy more crypto, whether they use it to buy stocks, real estate, whatever, right? But it's like it incentivizes them now to own the assets, right? Because they can get money back and they can go take this, and they're probably going to diversify at other places, but at least, incentivize them to own the underlying crypto asset, right? So all of this is just crazy, and it's kind of like Chamath Palihapitiya said last year. He said, who was the biggest investing winner of 2024? You can go look at this on the Online Podcast. He claimed it was Michael Saylor. It's like, and that's the way I am too. It's like, I've always thought of myself as kind of like, I'm obviously not anywhere near as smart as Warren Buffett, and I'm obviously not nearly as smart as Chamath Palihapitiya. No way. I know that. But what I do know, I feel like that I'm a good judge of character, and that I can, I've got a good idea of like what CAGR is, and like I don't want to settle for 10% gains every year. That's just not me. Like, it's not me. I spent a long time in engineering school, right? And then like at night I would study the markets, economics, assets, CAGR, all these things, because I don't want to sit here and make 10% a year and double my money every 7 years. That ain't me, bruh. I'm not interested in your pansy little 10% a year. I'm looking for 30% plus, right? And historically, I've made a lot more than that, right? And what it boils down to is being able to stomach volatility, right? So if you're willing to hold assets like Bitcoin or Tesla that can swing up or down 30% in a day, right? And you don't sell when it goes low, and you really don't sell at all. You buy when it gets low, and you just hold when it goes high, right? Because it's like, what's going to happen in 5 years, right? Is Tesla going to be lower? Probably not. And is Bitcoin going to be lower? Probably not. Is MicroStrategy therefore going to be lower? Probably not. Is MetaPlanet going to be lower? Probably not, right? So it's like, this is just the way I invest. I'm not a financial advisor, but I do not like I said, I do not like the 10% annual CAGR. I like the 30% plus, and I really think that MicroStrategy is a good play. But kind of like the Warren Buffett and Chamath Palihapitiya thing is, I like listen to both of them a lot, and I've seen Warren Buffett, not sell his positions for a long time. I obviously I wasn't alive when he bought Coca-Cola, but like he still owns a lot of Coca-Cola, and I've seen Warren Buffett get into Apple when it was 2015, and he made a bunch of money on Apple since 2015, but he missed Apple ever since then. He missed Amazon, he missed Tesla, he missed Microsoft, he's missed all these big tech companies, right? And he's missed Bitcoin, as opposed to, but what I do like about him is he understands that he does not want to be a business owner. He wants, as far as like a business owner and operator, let's say that, he doesn't want to be a CEO of a company that actually has to provide profits through like a product or a service. Instead, he wants to be like an asset manager, or manage a portfolio, right? That's why he has Berkshire Hathaway. He realizes he doesn't want to do the work. He realizes there's other people that can do the work better than him, right? And he goes after companies that are really easy to run, and that also have like insanely good people running them, right? Which seems pretty solid. pretty solid investing idea, right? But then you add Chamath Palihapitiya into it, right? And he is like big tech guy, you know. He helped start Facebook, you know, and he's an electrical engineer, and he's got the All In podcast, and he's Strife, is that right? Strike? He's had a whole bunch of companies he started, right? And he loves technology. He talks about Bitcoin. He talks about Tesla all the time. And the ideas that he talks about a lot of times, if you just hedge with them, they usually go up a lot, right? So it's kind of like, and he's kind of criticized, even though he's said that he's a Warren Buffett disciple before, he does criticize Buffett for his lack of like participation in the big tech industry. And Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, before he passed, they would always say that they're not interested in, you know, the big risky tech stocks because they don't understand them at a high level, right? They like to invest in companies that they understand at a high level. So me personally, I like to kind of combine the two, and then figure out what I think works the best. And it's usually just what Chamath says, right? Not that I just believe everything that he says, but I know he's a lot smarter than me, right? And he's been touting Bitcoin for a long time. He's been touting Tesla for a long time. And it's just like, we're at that level, you know, where, you know, MicroStrategy's been issued a B- credit rating. I think the United States federal government itself was issued like a D or a C or something. Literally, MicroStrategy's credit rating is higher than the United States federal government's. Let that sink in, right? That's wild. That's absolutely wild. But at the same time, I mean, their asset to liability ratio is on a whole nother level in the United States, right? So, yeah, it's just a crazy time we live in, and, you know, it just seems like day after day, week after week, we're going to have more bullish news and more bullish news and more bullish news about Bitcoin, right? And that's really what I'm making this video about. I'm pounding the table that I think Bitcoin is going to be higher. Whether it's in a few months, whether it's in a few years, it's going to be a lot higher is my contention. Even though I'm not a financial advisor, don't sue me, bro, but like, that's my claim, right? And so if you claim that Bitcoin's going to be higher, how can you make a leveraged bet without being on margin where you can get margin called? Okay, that's where MicroStrategy and MetaPlanet come in. There's other ways to play it as well that might be even more risky, but my risk tolerance is, hey, I'm going to own the Bitcoin treasury companies. I own a little bit of Bitcoin itself too. So it's just kind of like, this is where I sit. You guys can let me know in the comment section below, like, what you guys think about my investing platform, my portfolio, you know, what, you know, my percentages, how I, you know, kind of combine Buffett and Palihapitiya into one and kind of just try to like intermingle it. Yeah. And what you guys think about Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, right? Just let me know in the comment section below. If you made it this far, what are you doing? Definitely subscribe to the channel, right? I mean, you got to subscribe. I make videos like this all the time. So, yeah, let me know, guys, in the comment section below. Don't forget to like the video and have yourself a fantastic evening.